Hi everyone, and welcome to our image transfer class today. Today I'm going to go through a couple of different techniques you can use to transfer a photocopy image, just like these ones, onto a different surface. So obviously you need a photocopy of the photo or the picture that you want to transfer, and a surface to work on. So this one I've done on just a chipboard circle. All I've done, this one I've used acrylic paints as virtually the glue. So you can use matte gel or the acrylic paints to do the image transfer, but it works better with a photo that is printed in black and white. You can do it in colour as well, but we're not doing that today. That may be another time. But so for these ones I've just painted them in black and white, and I've transferred the image on, and then I've given it a coat of a clear varnish just to protect it. So if you wanted to use them as placemats or something, you could certainly give them a few coats of a clear varnish, and they would work really well. So this one's just on the chipboard. You could do it onto, I started doing this one, but I took it back too far in some parts. This one's just on a block of timber where I've used acrylic paints again as the glue. I've done this one onto the glass of a photo frame, so I've just taken that out and done that. So this one is onto the glass of a photo frame, and the idea with this one is you obviously transfer your image on, and then you could put like a book page, or if you can see, just see the writing through here, and the parts where I've taken it right back to the glass. So you could put a book page or a music page. If you've got an old Melways map book, you could put a map behind there. So depending what sort of look you're going for, you could add that on, and then obviously put it back into your frame, and yeah, something completely different. So I've got a canvas. I'm going to actually work through two. So I've got a canvas that I've painted already. So I'm going to use a matte medium to attach this one, and then I'm going to do one onto a little bamboo board. So I'm going to actually use paint to stick this one on. So I'm going to work on this one first. So I'm going to use matte medium to do this one. You don't want a gloss one, you just need a gel one, a matte one, sorry. And what I'm going to do is glue down my image first, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry, and then start working on the other one. So you just need to coat where you're going to use or put your picture. Just want to make sure you've got a good coverage on there, and make sure you work a little bit quicker so as it doesn't dry on you. Just need to make sure you've got everything covered where your image is going to go, and then if you've got a card or something to rub over to make sure it's all stuck down nicely. So I could put the gel over the whole board, but I'm not going to at this stage. Okay, I think we've got plenty on there. Right, just need a touch more at the top. So if you've got an old credit card or something, you can certainly use that to flatten this out and make sure it's all stuck down nicely, especially on the edges. So mine's pretty much stuck down, so I'm just going to give it a rub over and make sure it's right down. As I said, if you've got an old plastic card, you can use that to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to flatten out that glue with my fingers as well. Don't want to have too many brush marks. So if you're putting your image onto glass as well, you would use a matte medium. Again, just a matte one, not a gloss one. You can always put the gloss over the top once you're done. So I'm just putting that aside now to dry, and what I'm going to do is use white. I'm just using gesso to do this one, but again, you want to make sure, I'm not going to do the whole board, but you want to make sure that the area you're going on to is well covered with a good thick layer of gesso, because you don't want it drying out before you get the image on there. So I'm just going to cover that. I'm going to leave the handle sort of taper it out a little bit. To make sure the paint's all nice and even, good thick layer. And then what you need to do is just place your image down where you want it. You do have a little bit of leeway with this because it will slip. You can move it around while it's dry, while it's wet. So again, just make sure that your image is stuck right down. Using the paint, it acts like a glue. So okay. So now what we want to do is get our paint dry. So once you've made sure it's all stuck down nicely, just use your heat tool and give it a dry. Okay, so I've got my picture dry and I've started rubbing off all of the paper. I've started this one as well, but I've left some so I can show you. It does take quite a while to do, so I didn't want you to sit here and watch me just rub paper off. So with this one, I don't know if you can see it, but there's still, I've rubbed it right back and you can see there is some parts that have come back too far. That's okay because it gives it a rustic sort of look, but if you can see up here, there's still a layer, just a really thin layer of paper on there. So I want to take it back a little bit more, but I don't want to use my spray bottle and absolutely wet the picture. So I'm just going to wet my finger a little bit and just keep gently rubbing that. And you'll feel when all the layers of paper off and it's pretty much just the ink from the printer, because it'll be nice and smooth. You won't have that feeling of rough underneath your finger. From the fibers of the paper you'll feel them. So you just want to, at this stage, gently rub it back. You don't want to go in too hard, otherwise you will take too much of it off. And as you can see, it's sort of really easy to take it back that little bit just by putting a little bit of moisture on your finger. And it's a lot less moisture than using a spray bottle. So the idea of this is the image transfer, you want it to look like it was actually made with the image on there. So you want the edges to feel nice and flat, which these do. So I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and as it dries you can see which parts need more work and which don't, because you will see the white from the paper. But I'm happy with that now, so I'm gonna leave that one there. The only other thing I will do to it is put a coat of gloss varnish over the top of it just to protect it a bit. So I will do that later. But as you can see the image quite clearly. There is still little small patches of white, but that's okay, it just adds to that rustic sort of look. You do need to be careful when you're doing this, because you can take it back too far, and when it does start to go too far it goes quite quickly. So when you're doing this, all you need to do is just wet the paper, just leave it soaking for a minute, and then just gently rub off that top layer of paper. The water will soak down through the layers, but you don't want to take it too far too quick. So I find if you take off that top layer, you can then work, so that one went quite quickly back too far. So when that happens, you need to work sort of quickly but not. So with the first layer you can take it off as quick as you like, but once you've exposed that you need to take it a bit slower. And if you do go too far and take it right off, just work in another area until that one dries off a bit, and then you can go back over that way after. So as you can see, it's sort of, the black is becoming blacker the more layers of paper I take off. So I'm just gonna work over here. I have taken it a bit too far down here, but it all adds to it. And when you're doing faces, you sort of need to be careful, especially on the face and the eyes, if you don't want big big holes in them where you've taken them back too far. So all you need to do is just gently rub, and you will see, you can see over here where there's still fibres of the paper, and over here where there's none. So I'm just going to keep gently rubbing that back staying away from the parts where it's gone too far because I don't really want them to go much further. I don't mind little bits that have gone too far in faces, but it is individual choice. But yeah, I like to try not to take them too far. And as you can see with this one, because of the type of photo that I've copied, you can see the background colour through the image as well, which sort of adds to it as well. So I'm not rubbing overly hard. The paper is drying out a fair bit now, so I'm not going to spray any more water on there because I don't want it too wet now. But as you can see, pretty much all of the paper is off now. There's maybe a couple of little areas that need a little bit more work, but so that's about it. So most of that is pretty smooth. There's a couple of parts on the edge that need to come back a bit. So just using your finger, dampen your finger a little bit. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one as well. I'm just going to put a clear coat over the top. So yeah, so that's how image transfer works. So you can also do it in an art journal as well. It works quite well on paper, but again, you do need to make sure it is a good quality paper and not watercolor paper. Otherwise, you're going to end up taking all the paper with it. So you do need to make sure that if you are using watercolor paper or any paper, just make sure that you've got a good coverage of paint or even gesso first, and then do your transfer onto there. So I'm going to leave these sit and dry for a little bit longer just to make sure the paper is dry, and then put a clear coat over the top, and that's about it. So that's different ways of doing image transfer. You can use acrylic paints, you can use matte medium, or you can even use gesso. So give it a go. Different photos, different things. Enjoy. Thanks for joining me today.